President, please be seated. The chamber is now back in session, and I give the floor to the international co-prosecutor to continue putting questions to the witness.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, my colleague is arriving. So I'm going to ask you for just a few moments of patience. I'm sorry for his coming late.
My apologies, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Witness. Do you still have the document that we were looking at before lunch? Exhibit E32047. I can provide you with another copy. Mr. Witness, if you could look at the second page of that exhibit. The first page was the list of the 18 family members of the two individuals that we discussed, Sok and Mailun. The second page is another report or list from Hui, also dated on the 7th of April, 1977, same date, that lists 11 pregnant women. Can you tell us why was Hui sending a list of 11 pregnant women?
I can still recall that I cannot recall whether it was in case 01 or in case 02. I cannot recall everything. So I would like to encourage you to look back at my previous testimony.
Well, I certainly can do that, but do you remember what happened to the pregnant women on this list? And do you have any memory of why Hui would send you lists of women who were pregnant at Presar?
I cannot recall it.
Just a request for clarification, Mr. President. Where does it say that Hui sent this document to S21?
Well, it's attached to another document, and I think you'll find from your answer in the next document I'm about to use, Counsel.
Well, it is attached in this document, but whether it was attached at the time, that is unclear.
Mr. President, to answer Council's question, I'd like to go to the next document, which is E3/10-506. E3-10506. And the specific Khmer pages, this is one of the new lists that's only in Khmer. The specific Khmer ERNs 01019382 through 9383. If I could submit this to the witness.
The chamber grants your request.
Could you look at the page, the page that I've marked with a post-it, and the following page? You will see on this list, an S21 execution list, the 10 pregnant, or the 10 women who were identified in Hui's report as pregnant. My first question, for each of these women whose number on the list I've highlighted, and for the record, Your Honors, you'll find the names of these women at numbers 147 through 149, 151, 156 to 157, 159, and 167, and 169 through 170 on the execution list E3/10-506.
Mr. President, I object to what's happening now. I realize that this is an untranslated document, that we have been using documents which have not been translated yet either, but at least I should be able to follow what the prosecution is saying. Right now, I cannot follow what he's saying. He says there is a connection between the previous list and this list. I cannot be sitting here and not saying anything about this. We should be able, all of us, to verify what the prosecution is saying, and right now, I can't.
This is exactly the reason why we have actually asked to put these documents also to display them, so our in-court resources can help us with translations.
We can do that. We can put it on the screen. And may I also say, this is the reason we were given time off. I spent the time doing what counsel asked Your Honors for, which is going through and seeing if we could find new connections through the new list. We obviously had to rely on Khmer speakers in our team to help us identify these people. The defense have Khmer speakers too, so I am not in any different position than the defense.
No, but we need to follow your arguments on the basis of these documents, the arguments you make today.
Yes. Which is why I will also identify the numbers. Thank you. Mr. Kangaki, I've highlighted the numbers I just read on that list. I want to ask you about the notes that appear in the very right column for those women's names. Can you read for us, let's start with number 147 on the list. Can you read for us the annotation or the note that appears in the right-hand column? And if we could show that on the screen.
Thank you. First, I would like to read it to you. The date that Comrade Hui wrote the letter to me. The date is 7 April 1977. And next, I would like to read the date on page 72. So it was the page preceding my page. First, Q-seat female, the transportation unit. She was smashed on 7 April 1977. So it means that immediately after she was sent in, she was smashed. Another one was smashed on 7 April 1977. So that means once they arrived at S21, they were sent away immediately to be smashed. So it was under horse arrangement for the transportation out from the rice field unit, and they were smashed immediately at Chiang Ai without going through S21.
For the record, Mr. President, I have not been able to follow what the witness has been saying whatsoever. I get on my screen the note that that name cannot be read on page 72. Whether that's true or not, I cannot verify. But I strenuously object to this way that we are dealing with this now.
But counsel, you have a co-counsel. You have a Khmer-speaking co-counsel. We are all in the same position.
Yeah, but I need to follow it as well. I'm also the international co-lawyer, and I need to be able to follow it as well.
Why don't you cooperate?
I get the remark that it doesn't say so, but
then you will have to address this. Yes.
Let me help. The reason I found the underlying list is because we first matched these names to the translation in the OCIJ list. So let me, in response to counsel, let me also give you the corresponding numbers for these women in OCIJ's list. Number 1 on Hui's list, that is the list of 12 pregnant women, appears as number 3339 in OCIJ list. Number 2 on Hui's list appears as number 3343 in OCIJ. Number 3 in Hui's list of pregnant women appears as OCIJ number 3351. Number 4 in the list of pregnant women appears as OCIJ number 3359. Number 5 on Hui's list of pregnant women appears as OCIJ number 3362. Number 6 on the list of pregnant women is OCIJ 3340. Number 7 on the list of pregnant women is OCIJ number 3361. Number 8 is OCIJ 3349. And number 10 is OCIJ 3348, and number 11 of the list of pregnant women appears as OCIJ number 3341. I will note here also that the only pregnant women on Hui's list who we did not find in the S21 list is number 9, So Van Rhee, who, if you look at Hui's list, you will see an annotation next to her name that says not seen. That number 9 is the only one, the person who's indicated as not seen is the only one who does not appear on the OCIJ list and the underlying execution list that the witness has identified. Mr. Kanguk gave, Mr. Witness, the references in the right-hand column to these women being smashed. What is the word smashed used, or is there a shorthand reference to indicate they were executed?
The annotation was in Khmer. The word smash, it means that the person had been already killed. And the handwriting, as far as I can remember, was whole handwriting.
My question was, did he use the full name Smash Comtech, or did he use a shorthand reference? And if so, you can say in Khmer what the reference is, please.
The word com, it was an abbreviated form of the full word Comtic. But because it's too long to write the full word, we simply write the short one, that is com.
Now, I note in the report from Hui, dated 7 April 1977, at least the first woman on the list in the right column, she is described as nearing full-term pregnancy. If you look at the right column of E32047, it indicates that she was nearing full-term pregnancy. And do you understand whether or not the names below her, Hui's report, does this indicate or mean that the other women were also nearing full-term pregnancy?
The women who near full-term pregnancy and whose name appeared in the list, there were totally 8 of them because there was the annotation next to their name. Those, or in English, the same.
What was the reason, Mr. Witness, that 8 women nearing full-term pregnancy were sent from Presar to be executed at Chiang Ek? What was the reason for that?
I cannot recall it.
Was there a practice at Presar when people were sick, too sick to work, or in this case, women who were in the late stages of pregnancy could not work? Were those people sent away for execution?
I cannot recall everything related to these principles that you just mentioned.
Do you recall how often Hui sent reports listing women who were pregnant or nearing their full-term pregnancy?
I cannot recall it. But let me give you an event or example during the testimony here. When the chamber tried case 001, there was a witness named Bhuton who was a widow. She was transported by truck and she delivered her baby in the city. And that was the incident that I can remember. That's the only one I can remember. As for the other cases of other women, I cannot recall it.
And at the bottom of this list, Hui's list of pregnant women, there is a handwritten note that reads, among these, there may be some small children as well. Do you recognize the handwriting? Who is it that wrote the line at the bottom, the handwritten line that states that there may be some small children as well?
I would like to clarify to you that I cannot remember who is handwriting.
Do you know, Mr. Witness, what happened to small children of women when those women were sent away for execution? What happened to their children?
Related to this story, it related to the story I told you earlier about children. In principle, children of the enemy who were not mature yet they needed to be smashed, and that was based on the general principle of the party implemented at that time. There was one occasion when I gave the answer to in this courtroom. If this case was not the general principle or policy of the party, then we would ask how many orphanage centers were there during the Democratic Cambodia regime. So the general policy was that when the parents were considered as traitors, the children would be taken away and killed. I was asked in this courtroom once about particular children who were spared. For example, Mom Nai's children. Mom Nai's was the cadres. So the children were spared, and he went out to find rats in the rice fields. But if Mom Nai became a traitor, his children also would be killed. That was the general policy at that time.
Thank you. I'd like to now turn to another family that appears in the S-21 records. Your Honor, may I submit to the witness document E3/3187, E3/3187, and the specific pages of this list. Khmer 00008758 to 59. The corresponding English pages 00874-194 to 96. With your leave, may I submit this to the witness?
President, yes, you may proceed.
The document, the first document in what's been handed to you is a list of prisoners executed in December 1976. And I'm going to refer you to a number of people on this list who are identified as family members of Tok Seng Eng, who was a chief of new road construction or maintenance, identified from the railway unit. And if you look at number 77 on this list, first of all, number 77 is Tok Seng Eng's wife, Nai Sim, who entered S-21 on the 19th of December 1976 and was executed on the 28th of December 1976. The same list, if you look back on the same page where we've highlighted the names for you, it contains 6 children of this couple. Numbers 65 to 69 on the list are 5 daughters of Tok Seng Eng, who entered S-21 with their mother on the 19th of December. Tok Kom Sari, number 66, number 67, Eng Vuti, number 68, Eng Raksmi, number 69, Eng Vuta, all of whom were executed 6 days after their arrival on the 25th of December 1976. And Your Honors, one of these daughters appears in a photograph, S21 photograph, E3/8639.1064. Let me repeat that. And if we could put that photo on the screen. E3/8639.1064 is a photograph from S21 of Eng Raksmi, one of the daughters of Tok Seng Eng. And the last name I want to refer to you on this list before I have some questions for you, Mr. Witness, number 61 on the same list is Eng Sarot, also identified as a child of Tok Seng Eng, entered S21 19 December 1976 and was executed 2 days later on the 21st. We also, Your Honors, have his S21 photograph in the new collection of DC Cam photos. This is E394.1 at page P01223-708 through 09. I've included that in your packet, Mr. Witness. There is a photograph of a young boy, if we can show that photograph on the screen now. He is photo number 120 in the new DC Cam collection of S21 photos. And for the record, he is identified on the back of the photograph as Eng Sarot, son of Tok Seng Eng, with the date 19 December 1976. That corresponds to his S21 record. And the same photograph is also in evidence as E38639, E38639.283. My first question, Mr. Witness, while we're trying to get that photograph on the screen, in this list and others, there were a significant number of people from the railway who were sent to S21 in late 1976, including, in this case, an entire family from people. Yes, and if you're looking at the screen, if we could zoom in on it a little better, the picture in the very bottom right, number 120, is the, there we go. That is the photograph of Eng Sarot, one of the children of this family who appears on this list. Do you have any recollection of why people, including entire families, were being arrested and sent to S21 from the railway in late 1976?
I do not recall that.
The main thing I wanted to ask you about this family, Mr. Kanguki, as I just indicated, the children were all executed within a week of their arrival. Though in one case, number 65, I should note, the S-21 list indicates that on the same day that her sisters were killed, she committed suicide by hanging. If you look at number 65, Eng Makia Vin identified as committing suicide by hanging on the 25th of December. But the reason I wanted to ask you about this family, the father, Tok Seng Eng, he entered S-21 a few days before them on the 16th of December 1976. But he was not executed until 9 months, or over 9 months later, on the 19th of September 1977. And Your Honors, for the record, the father, Tok Seng Eng, appears in document E3/2285, E3/2285, Khmer. It's a list of prisoners smashed on 19 September 1977, which is Khmer 00009083 to 85, English 00873-172. He is number 79 on that list. So my question, the children and the mother were all executed fairly soon after their arrival at S-21. The father was not executed until 9 months later. Why was that?
I did not have a full knowledge regarding this event.
Let me ask you this way, Mr. Witness. You've already testified that normally the wives and children were not interrogated. When children and spouses were brought to S-21 and not interrogated, were they kept around while the father was being interrogated, or were they taken away for execution before his interrogation was completed?
There was no fixed rule regarding this matter. And allow me to be frank with you, Mr. Prosecutor, regarding the photos. I am not sure regarding the note behind or at the back of the photos, and that it was before 7 January 1979. To me, that is not clear. I did not know whether the writing at the back of the photos was done before or after 7 January 1979. I see the old serial numbers, and then they appear new serial numbers. So what is the difference between the two sets of numbers? Was the new numbering system done by S-21 or by somebody else? And what was the reason for the new numbering system? As for the names of the people in the photos, I am unclear whether these names appear on the list of prisoners made by the co-prosecutors. That is, out of those 1,200 plus names, or whether they are new names. So to me, this figure and the photos are unclear. I could tell you about the actual practice at the time. The principle is that for important prisoners, they would be questioned first, and later there would be a decision whether any of their wives would be questioned. However, these numbering systems and these lists trouble me. I do not know whether the names were extracted from the list of S21 prisoners provided to me by the Office of the Co-Prosecutors, and that the list was used during the prior proceedings regarding the facts at S21, or whether this is a new list of prisoners. And as for the list, I believe Co-Prosecutor Vincent Wild is well familiar with it regarding the process of compiling that list.
Well, Mr. Witness, perhaps I will show you this full new collection. It was something discovered by DC Cam, a new set of photos after the proceedings against you. There are about 1,000 new photos. The first half from 1976 don't have name tags. They have handwritten names on the back. The second part of that group have name tags. I can also tell you that a witness from the photograph unit who testified earlier has identified the handwriting on the back of these photos as being the head of the photography unit. But perhaps in one of these subsequent days I will give you the whole book so that you can look at it. I can also tell you that we've... Sorry, Your Honor.
Just a very short remark. Yes. Mr. Witness, there is a new list, yes. A list you haven't seen so far. So that's a fact. And some of the questions and supporting material, which you have not yet seen, because they were only made or compiled by the Office of the Co-Investigating Judges recently and brought to the attention of the trial chamber a couple of months ago. So yes, you will be confronted with a list and supporting material you have not yet seen. Is that clear?
Thank you, Judge Fens. And let me also just, for the record, so it's clear, the photographs that appear here have numbers on the front which were added by DC Cam. So if you're looking at the numbers that were done sequentially, that was done by DC Cam in putting together the new material that was received. But the information on the back of the photographs comes from the originals. Mr. Witness, we've talked about children who accompanied their parents. Yesterday, I showed you a daily control list for S21, and I want to briefly come back to that document with you, and you probably don't have that there, so if I can provide again to the witness, this is document E38493, Your Honors. E38493. It is a list, or it is the daily prisoner control list for 11 April 1976. If I can provide that again to the witness.
Yes, you can do that.
Now, the part of the list I want to ask you about today, Mr. Witness, if you look on the first page where the chart is reflecting totals, you'll see there's an indication there, new arrivals. a total of 58 new arrivals. And you'll also see some totals in the chart of children outside detention. And then if you turn to the second page, which is also dated 11 April 1976, you will see a list of 33 people with names, people who are indicated as coming from Prek Dak, Sector 25, identified as Arab, Pakistan, Indian. And then at the end of that list, there is an indication of there also being 20 male children and 5 female children. And if you add 33, 20, and 5, that comes to the 58, corresponds to the 58 new arrivals that are indicated on the cover page. My question to you is, can you explain to us why it is that the 25 children were not included, were not named and put on the registration lists and are only referred to in totals here? What was the reason for that practice?
The list are the Pakistanis. I believe I made my statement once during the investigative act, as well as during the proceedings in case 001. I stated that NAD took those people who were Muslims to Takmau before they were let out or taken out. And if I am not mistaken, those Muslim people were finally smashed at I-21 after they had been evacuated to various locations. And by that time I was not yet chief, and I believe that they were held at Takmau prison and later smashed. So I believe they applied the same principle. When the parents were considered traitors, the children would be smashed as well. And if you compare this matter to a telegram from Paul, the measure taken by the party for Muslim happened after the plans to move the Muslim along the river to the north zone. And that is a matter between the Muslim people and the CPK. Again, as I have stated, if the fathers were removed, the wives and the children would also be removed. And that was practiced in principle regarding the policy of the CPK towards the Muslim people.
So in your past testimony where you've talked about these people, you called them as from the Muslim village, those people are the people who appear on this list? Do I understand correctly?
I spoke about the Muslim people from Phum Arab. That's what the name called in Khmer, or Arab village, and they usually raise livestock there. And the village was located outside the skirt of Phnom Penh city at the time. So they were evacuated to various locations, and finally NAD was instructed by Angkar to gather them up and smashed. And that happened around February. of that year. And that was in relation to about 50,000 Muslim people from the East Zone. And that was in line with the policy of the CPK toward Muslim after the events that was unfolded in the East Zone.
Just so we're clear, that at the top of the page, the second page, there is a reference to these people being brought in from Prek Dak. Do you know where Prek Dak was? Was that the same location of the villagers you were talking about, or is that a different location?
The village location that I mentioned was located at the outskirts of Phnom Penh. For Prek Dak, as I said, people in Phnom Penh were evacuated out of the city, including those Indians from Arab village. And they were evacuated to Prek Dak. And at various stages, they were evacuated elsewhere. And it is my conclusion that later on that was instructed by Onka to gather them up at the Takmau. And from the date on the document, that event took place after Pum sent a telegram to Brother Paul on the situation of the Muslim people. And to my recollection, that telegram was sent on the 2nd of November 1975.
Okay, thank you for that information, Mr. Witness. I want to talk in general about the children who were taken or brought to S21 with their parents. Other than the 3 or 4 who you've indicated were still alive when the Vietnamese arrived, were the other children who came with their parents killed?
The adult, as well as the children, that is, for they all had to be removed. That was between the 1st and the 3rd of January, and that Uncle Noon actually called me to relate that instruction. So they were removed in a series of batches or groups within that period.
I was asking a more general question about the entire period that you were a chairman or deputy chairman or chairman of S21. What happened to the children who came to S21 with their parents? Were there any survivors other than those 3 or 4 who were left at the end of the regime?
I think the 3 children who survived were those who were entered in late 1978. As for the children who were entered from 1975 up to that period, had all been smashed.
And when the children were smashed, Mr. Witness, where were they taken to be killed?
I may not be able to provide you a precise response. I can only make a general statement in my capacity as a person who was overall in charge. They were sent to be killed at June 8. I was busy reading documents every day, starting from 6 o'clock in the morning until 12 midnight, and as I had to make reports to my superior, and that was my main role at the time.
Were these children, were children kept for long periods at S-21 before they were taken away for execution? And if so, where were the children kept?
I did not know the real practice at the time of where the children were kept.
Well, you talked about the fact that there weren't orphanages. Was there a big daycare center or school at S-21 where there were hundreds of children waiting for their parents to be interrogated?
I have stated that if during the Pol Pot regime or the CPK regime, if there were no instructions to kill orphans, then there had to be orphanage centers. But nobody ever saw any orphanage center existed during the regime. And that is an evidence indicating that the CPK instructed subordinates to smash the wives and the children once the fathers or the husbands were considered the traitors. So, in conclusion, we can say that during the Pol Pot regime, when the parents were smashed, the children would also be smashed, since there was no sign of any existence of an orphanage center during the regime.
Mr. Witness, I want to read to you an excerpt from a book that was written by Tet Sambat, who conducted extensive interviews of Noon Chea. And this book is document E3/4202. E3/4202 references English 00757-337, Khmer 00858-358-59, French 00849-448. And in a section of his book that discusses S-21, Tet Sambat attributes the following statement to Noon Chea. Quote, "They normally confessed when they were beaten painfully and seriously tortured," Noon Chea said. "This confession could not be valid and usable, so they must be released. Some of the accused were very young." End of quote. We're going to talk about torture and confessions later. For the moment, I want to focus on the last part of this quote attributed to Noon Chea about S-21. His statement that some of the accused were very young. Do you remember having any conversations with Noon Chea about children at S-21? Did you send him any reports? Do you know how it is that Noon Chea was aware that there were people at S21 who were very young.
I think that statement by Uncle Noon was not according to the real situation at all. No one was ever released after they were sent to S21. All had to be smashed. And I can have Noon as my witness on this matter. There was a dentist who was authorized by 870 to be arrested, and his name was Pon. And Riek Chamran was with Pol Pot, and they were from France. That person was arrested, and Noon called me to see him, and that the party instructed for the release of this individual took upon. And I did not even respond to his request to instruction yet, and he said that you has to release him so that he could be used as a dentist to fix our teeth, to treat for the treatment of our teeth, and that he should not be released outside, but he could be released for the purpose of working inside S21. And maybe he would be allowed to stay there with the prisoners. That was the only instance that I ever received instructions for the release of prisoner for working inside a compound. So that the statement by Noon is not based on the real situation at the time.
I understand. We'll come back because he says more about his review of confessions, and I'll ask you to respond to what he says about that later. I wanted to focus now only on the part of the statement about some of the accused at S21 being very young. And my question to you is, do you remember having any discussions with Noon Chea about children at S21? Did he receive reports about children? Do you have any understanding of how Noon Chea knew there were people at S21 who were very young?
I did not hear the interpretation. President, please check the audio equipment. President, please check the battery of the equipment. President, the co-prosecution, please repeat your question because the witness did not hear the interpretation in Khmer.
My question had to do with the statement by Noon Chea that some of the people at S21 were very young. Do you remember any conversations with Noon Chea about children at S21? Did you send him reports, or do you know how it is Noon Chea was aware that there were young people, very young people at S21?
Thank you. I never sent the list of prisoners to Uncle Nguyen. I sent to Uncle Nguyen and Brother Son Sen about the confessions from the prisoners. And I made the annotation at this particular place where I would like to draw their attention. So the documents that we all saw can be a testimony of what I did at that time. So that's why I said earlier that what Brother Nguyen said was not true. And I did not know the reason, and I cannot comment on why he said so.
Let me ask you this. In your communications with Son Sen and Nguyen Chea, did any of them ever instruct you that children should not be taken to S21 or that children should not be killed? Did either of them ever tell you not to arrest, not to detain, or not to kill children?
President, could you hear well? Thank you. I now provide you a short answer. There was never an instruction to me not to kill children or to detain children. There never such an instruction. And I recall it clearly that when new people were arrested, Brother Son Sen always instructed me to take those arrested people out so that new arrestee could be brought in. He wanted to make sure that the prison had enough vacant space to receive new prisoners. There was never any instruction not to kill children, not to kill pregnant women, not to kill women. There was never such instruction. There was only one incident which I received the order from Brother Paul not to kill Pon, who was a dentist, and that was the only incident that I received such instruction. President, thank you. It is now convenient time for a break. The chamber will take a break from now until 3 o'clock. Court officer, please assist the witness at the waiting room reserved for the witness, and please bring him back into the courtroom at 3 o'clock. The court is now in recess.